What is up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. I'm here with David. Obviously, he's like second co-host. Yeah. And guys, it's getting a little bit too real, so we're gonna stop production. You know, actually, this is the third episode or second episode?
This third one.
Okay. David couldn't stop swearing and sinning.
Oh, right? Yeah? It was terrible.
No, okay, the reason why it took forever is because I edited it forever, so hey, there you go.
Okay, but also, this thing is forever to record too. So that's on me. That's on me.
Oh, that's alright. But anyway, so we're gonna get started, and we're gonna talk about forgiveness. Actually, we didn't even do a recap. We didn't even talk about what we were gonna talk about, so this is all gonna be 100% fresh. By the way, the camera over here is provided by David. Pretty cool. So, high production this time.
Yes, sir.
And we're gonna have fun with it. But let's get into it.
Alright.
Forgiveness is actually a big concept because a lot of people don't like owning up to. That's part of it. It's owning up to the mistake, and it could be. We could talk about it in two different perspectives, which is like asking for forgiveness or accepting it, which is like hardcore. Because I know a lot of people, especially people that are like borderline Christian, but they don't want to be full-on Christians, or they don't want to get baptized, they don't want to become connected with God because they think they don't deserve forgiveness.
Or
yeah. Okay. Really, you have never heard that?
Not
People are just like, no, like I'm not ready to be perfect yet. It's like,
oh,
it's not. Yeah. Well, anyway, we're gonna get into it, and I don't know which one you would feel like more comfortable with, on what perspective you want to talk about it in.
Let's talk about, because just off the top of my head, I just remembered something. Let's talk about forgiving people.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was doing a Bible study with my little siblings. We were reading through Matthew, and it's really hard, dude. It's so hard because it's like so much in just one chapter. Matthew chapter 5. It's all not the parables, the Beatitudes, where it's like, blessed is the one who does this, and so on like that. And one of the Beatitudes is, blessed is the one who shows mercy. Or we can go to it, Matthew chapter 5. That way I can read it because I don't have it memorized.
All right. Well, I'm gonna take your word for it.
It says, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy." Right, so we have received mercy from God. He has forgiven us of our sins. We should also forgive others and show mercy to them as well. Yeah. And I think it can be really hard, especially when someone offends you or they do something to you. It's the only reason to forgive someone. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to be like, you know what, they were definitely wrong for what they did, but I forgive them for it. I'm not going to hold a grudge against them. One, because it affects me, and two, because I have been forgiven for way worse things than what they've done to me. Yeah. But that's what I think about when I think about forgiveness. Mm-hmm. I think about showing mercy to someone else because Jesus has shown me mercy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's in the Lord's Prayer. That's like one of the first things you say is like, Father, forgive me, for I have sinned as I forgive others who sinned against me. Like, it's right there and then. Like, and that I'm not sure if I told you, but I've told my sister this, and I was like, if you forgive everybody except for that one person that did you wrong, right? Whomever it is, when you go to heaven, God can easily be like, oh, I forgive everybody else but you, David, you know? And it's just like, no, you have to be just how Jesus was, right? Or is, as he fed people, you have to feed people, you know? You have to be kind to others, you have to love other people. As you pray for other people to be healed, Jesus does that. That's what he does, you know? And so that's part of it. Jesus forgives, so that means you must forgive. And I feel like, one, it is a huge, I guess it goes hand in hand on pride.
Yeah.
It's definitely. Like, it's definitely going to be like something that's like anchoring you down. But you have to swallow that pill, as we did. I think I talked about it like second episode, right? You have to swallow your pride. And as soon as you do that, and on that episode, I had said that it doesn't get better. It's always just a giant pill. I'm going to redact that statement. It's now so freaking easy. Like, now that I did it, it's just like effortless. And I didn't know that. But so just take my word and my I guess testimony on that. Because when you feel like, man, that like you want to go off, you want to say all these things, you want to let them know, man, you did me so dirty, you did me so wrong, right? But then at the same time, you're like, as soon as you let go, you truly let go of that weight. You don't own that. It's like what Jesus says to, I guess at that moment, Simon, but not Peter, right? But in that transition, he says, come to me, my heavy laden. And it's like, that baggage isn't yours. You shouldn't own up to it. You shouldn't take you should take accountability, but you don't claim it as yours, you know? And that's the whole reason why Jesus died on the cross, is for you to give that to him, and so you could get blessed. You know, that's called grace. And Jesus didn't have to do that, but he did. And a lot of people are just so scared of accepting that gift because pride, and because they can't just say, you know what, Father, forgive me. And a thing I want to point out is, this is a big one. When you were younger, David, this is true, right? And let's say, for example, you were younger and you ran around outside and you got dirty, right? You got mud all over you. You do not clean yourself before you get in the shower. You go to the shower to be cleaned. So that's how it is with Jesus. You don't fix yourself. You're like, oh, I'm sorry, Jesus. I'll go to you, but let me just fix my whole life first. Like, no. The whole point of him being like, come to me is like, so you can be redeemed.
Yeah. Oh yeah, especially because you can't redeem yourself. You know, you can't clean yourself. It's impossible for you to clean yourself. You're not coming to the foot of the cross. I've been washed of my sins, even though, you know, I've done all these things. I'm washed of my sins. Now I'm coming to you because you haven't.
Yeah.
You know, that's the entire point. You haven't. You have to be washed by the blood of Jesus Christ, and you can't be washed by anything else because there's nothing else that will clean you. So definitely agree.
So now that's clarified, and I think that's a really good foundation. We can kind of build up from that, where it comes to being able to be like, okay, how can I take this course of action? How can I make this happen? I recommend to all the viewers that are watching, you do not need to be in the same room to forgive them, all right? If they have passed away and you don't have that conversation, that ability to be like, oh man, my father was really bad to me when I was younger, you do not need to be in that room with them to be like, Dad, I forgive you. You don't have to. You could do it on your own, and in prayer, you could even say it out loud on your own. You don't have to be talking to someone either. It's just like on your own. And I think that's the best part about it, is that it is your task. You can't forgive someone else's sins. So it's like, okay, well, you know what? I can't forgive anybody else's sins. So that means I need to take accountability, and I need to step forward and, you know, ask for my forgiveness, right?
No, yeah, definitely with the prayer, especially. I know for me, on certain things, I think I'm pretty understanding or pretty lenient when things are going bad. It's like, okay, cool, they did this, but show some grace. It's not that big a deal. But at some point, I'll get upset about what happened because it's these things have been going on for so long, and I'm like, why should I forgive them? I've forgiven them so many times, and then look, they're still doing it.
Yeah.
And it's so hard because I know that I'm the same way, that I have done so many things and I've repeated doing those things, and Jesus still forgiven me. So I know that it's difficult, but because of prayer, I think it helps me. It definitely helps me, and it makes it a little easier to forgive someone because I remember, okay, well, look at all you've done, David. No, that's been forgiven from you. So, you know, you have to forgive that person too. And it's also, it feels so much better after you forgive someone. Like a weight's been lifted off your shoulders. It's like, you know, like, okay, I forgive them. I'm not carrying this anger with me all the time anymore. When I see them, I'm like, oh, this person did this to me, or I don't want to speak to them. I'm going to ignore them. It's not like that anymore. It's like, okay, you know, and you might not want to speak to them again because maybe it was something really serious that happened. And maybe you don't want to be around them, but it's not like, okay, I'm carrying this burden on all the time because I can't forgive this person for what happened. And prayer definitely helps with that, I think, and remembering that so much has been forgiven for us that we should forgive other people too.
And that's why I want to piggyback off of that. That's why it's so important to get baptized. I'd never experienced this. I got baptized twice. The first time, I thought I was ready, but I really didn't understand it. I knew of God, but I didn't know God. But the second time when I did it, I'm not lying to you, when I was underwater, I felt like everything that I was stayed in that water, and I felt new. Like I felt like when I came out, I was like, something stayed back there, and I just feel way more like redeemed, you know? And in truth, I want to jump back because you do not need to necessarily get baptized to feel this, right? For example, when Jesus was getting hung on the cross, there was two thieves next to him. On the one on the right, I'm gonna fast forward because on the one on the right, he said that I believe in you and that I believe that you're actually Lord. Jesus didn't look over and say, well, how many times did you read the Bible? You know, like he didn't do that. How many times did you get baptized? Or how many times did you go to the church? Like he didn't ask that. He said, together you will walk with me in paradise. And it's just like, bro, like just like that, you were like accepted. And it's just like, man, like what a good time, because he would be like, oh dude, I'm so freaking like right on that cross. But like in truth, like he was about to just pass away. That guy, he had the opportunity to, he had the faith and the encouragement. And that's actually a lot of that comes to what happened?
No, I'm just make sure it's good.
That comes to, I didn't put my timer for mine, by the way. That comes back to having encouragement. You have to be, confident when you ask for this forgiveness, and you also need to mean it with your heart. You can't just, like those in the past, for those who don't know, sin equals death. And so, or the wages of sin is death, right? So people in the past would do a sin, right? For example, they'll steal something. They'll sacrifice an animal, and then after that, they're redeemed. And that's not how it should be. You can't just continuously manipulate that. You need to mean it from your heart. So that's why Jesus was like, you know what? The ultimate sacrifice, I'm coming down. And I will be that sacrifice. So you don't need to run acres or yards or miles or a different country just to find the place where you can speak to God. You can do it anywhere. You can do it in your car. For shout out to the people that are Christians. You know this, when you're driving down a highway and you're worshiping, like you literally make your car the altar, like just like that. It's just like, man, you don't have to go do all those things to go to different locations just to feel God. The whole point of Jesus dying for us and taking that punishment is, well, obviously, one, there's separation. There's the division from sinners to saints, right? I guess you can say. But also a huge change. It's like, okay, we used to have religion over everything, and it was like, no, it's not religion, it's relationship. And that's a huge part of it. So if you want to ask for forgiveness, truly mean it with your heart. Don't take abuse to it. You can't do sin, and then you can't serve two masters. So you can't sin and then the next day be like, okay, no, Father, forgive me, and then the next day do it again and again. Like, you have to mean it with your heart.
Yeah, another thing too is you're asking God for forgiveness, but you also have to ask forgiveness from the people you sinned against, right? So you have to go and you have to humble yourself, and that's so hard. And I've done it before when I get into fights with my siblings or whatever. I have to go and say, you know what, that's on me. I did bad. I'm sorry. Can you please forgive me? And my siblings, of course, are always going to say yes, right? Because they're my siblings. And I'm going to do the same thing for them, right? Every time they apologize, I'm like, yeah, dude, it's fine.
You're like, I don't know about this time.
Actually, talk to me. No, but yeah, that's part of it. It's really hard because you're like, am I actually wrong? Or in some cases, it's very clear that you're wrong. But just because of your pride, you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
You know, like that's like getting an argument with my sisters or something like that. And I don't want to be the one to go and say, you know what? That was my fault. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for starting this argument with you. I'm sorry for causing the fight. Sometimes I think I'm right. I'm like, I don't have to apologize. But you know, if even if you were right about what happened, you can say, you know what, I'm sorry for fighting with you. Like, I do mean what I said. Like, I meant when I said this, this, and this, you shouldn't do this. But I'm sorry for causing a fight. I didn't mean to cause a fight with you. I didn't mean to start yelling at you. That's on me. I shouldn't have done that. You know, because you can still correct someone and be wrong because of the way you did it. Like, let's say you did something to me, right? Yeah. And I go up to you and I start yelling at you, like, why would you do that to me? I don't know why. Instead of being like, Eric, like, that hurt me. You know, that was what you did against me was wrong. Yeah. And that gives you an opening to be like, wow, you know what? Maybe I really did mess up. I'm sorry, David, instead of saying, who is this guy yelling at me?
But when that does happen, because, I thought you were going to say something else. I thought you were going to say, I was going to be like, yeah, you should be, after you said, I apologize.
Oh, because
that can happen.
Yeah.
And that's when pride would really not come you out. And you really got to fight that. I thought that's what you were going to say. But that's another thing. It's like, man, like, and then a lot of people, I think that's when the enemy strikes. It's like right there, and that, especially right there, where you are opening your heart and being like, you know what, I'm sorry, right? The enemy comes in and be like, how dare you? You know, like, how dare he say that to you or whatever, and like, how dare he didn't accept it? So then multiple times, you see it in movies, like, they'll just be like, screw you, or whatever, like, they go off, you know? But yeah, that's definitely part of that. It's just like, you gotta know the enemy. And that is the biggest takeaway when it comes to, I guess, after, you know, the gospel and all that stuff. It's like, you gotta know his plan, the enemy's plans, and the way they trick you, the way they attack you. And it's the same thing. It's not like they're not huddled up and being like, all right, I got a new idea. No, it's like, it's the same thing. And you could even look at it for example, Abraham's situation where he wants a child, and then the wife decides to force that happen. You know?
Oh yeah, with Hagar?
Yeah. Fast forward, you could see that same thing happen. It's like, bro, it's the same demon, bro. It's the same attack. It's like, get over it, you know? Mm-hmm. And so we fall into that because we get in our own mind and we start convincing ourselves, oh, maybe this is true, you know? And we're like, oh, God promised me this, but it's taking a while. So let me just take it into my hands. And it's just like, but that's definitely part of it, man. And I feel like forgiveness is a huge thing when it comes to going into the Bible and going into Christ and going into Jesus, because that's the first step to become cleansed. Is forgive. And I guess that's all I got right now.
Well, I'll bring up a personal situation and I already talked to you about. I was reunited with this guy from high school. I hadn't spoken to him in a long time. We had this kind of big falling out. We were talking, he's like, yeah, I've been, you know.
I just realized who you're talking about.
We were talking about, he's like, oh, I'm a Christian, I've been a Christian, blah, blah, blah. I was just sick, and I was like, okay, that's fine, it's no big deal. Water under the bridge, you know? And we start talking about scripture, and we have differing opinions. But in my opinion, I felt like he took it too far. He started insulting me, and I honestly got pretty offended, you know. And I thinking back at it now, I probably shouldn't have reacted as badly as I did. Now, I didn't like curse him out or say or call him like an idiot or anything like that. But I was definitely really defensive when I don't think I should have been. Like, yeah, he called me a couple names. Yes, he called me dumb. But at the end of the day, first of all, the insults were that bad, and even if they were, I'm probably worse than anything he could have called me. That's what I think about now. Like, yes, I've been stupid. Yes, I've done way worse than what you're accusing me of doing. I don't think I'm doing it now, but that's something from the past that has happened. It might even happen again in the future, so maybe I shouldn't have been as offended.
Yeah.
Ultimately, because there was no peace there, I did have to say, you know what, that's enough. I don't hate this guy. I have no bad feelings for him. Hope the best for him. But, I do have to forgive him and get over myself, put my pride away and say, you know what, yes, he said those mean things about me that I didn't like, but
he's still a brother.
Yeah, I was about to say, if he really is a brother, then, I have to forgive him.
And it's, even if he is being deceived, that does not change his root, because he's truly trying to get there,
Right.
And so you gotta be there for him. That actually ties into mine, but before I get into that, I'm gonna finish with yours. But like, that's actually a huge takeaway, is like, no one, we had mixed opinions of this, no one is born evil. No one wakes up and goes, yeah, I'm gonna destroy the whole world. Like, we are being deceived. And God won't spend time creating you just for no reason, And so that's part of it. It's like someone comes up to you like, hey, I'm a Christian, and then immediately starts messing up or, displaying that their perception of what they know is wrong. That doesn't give you the chance to be too proud of your relationship, And that actually comes out in the Bible a lot. But you can't be too proud. I think it's in Romans. And it's just like, you have to guide them, and you had to help them out. And you can't just be like, oh, you're barely in those phases, good luck, and brush them off, because like, they're in need and they're being attacked, And
you know what? I should have probably thought of that too, because after I was first converted, I was in cage stage, dude. Everything is a sin. I don't want to do anything. Get away from me.
Yeah.
Don't you know? I should have known better at that point to say, hey, you know what? I think I went through the same thing, and I should probably show this guy some mercy, show him some compassion. That I don't know how long he's been a Christian for, but
wasn't it really soon though? Like, really recent?
No, he said
during that conversation, right?
He told me that he'd been a Christian, even when we had our falling out.
Oh, okay.
He told me he had been a Christian, which was like 5 years.
I didn't know he was
less.
a Christian before that.
Yeah, well, it could have been he was secluded.
I guess he's more practicing it now, right?
Kind of. Yeah. But based off what he told me, I feel like and it's really important. Like the issue that he's having is that he's not around any Christians very often. So I feel like he secluded himself, or I think, like, and this is all conjecture, maybe it's not the case anymore, maybe, but I feel like he secluded himself from everyone. Yes, he's reading the Bible, but he's doing this all by himself, and I think that's really bad for a Christian. You shouldn't do those things on your own. There's a reason why God wants us to go to church, right? So we can sharpen each other. Iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
And also because we get to discuss these things and know, okay, this is my brother. I'm going to see him next weekend, or I'm going to see him during the week.
Yeah.
No, this isn't a guy I could just brush off and say, nah, dude, you're stupid. Like,
yeah. And then actually that jumps into a point that comes out in the Bible. I don't know where, but you can help me out with this one. To judge righteously, not judge people. Right?
Oh, yeah, judge righteously. Yeah,
so it's like, well, I guess it maybe it is, but I just figured that out. But to judge righteously is so different. So on a Christian's perspective, if you want to be judgmental, you must judge righteously. You shouldn't be like, I can't believe you call yourself a Christian and you're vaping, or you're doing this, or you're doing drugs, or you're blah blah blah. It's the other way around. It's like, hey, before you do that, just remember that's a sin, and that's way different. Regardless, they're still gonna feel attacked. Because that's just, I mean, that's
like I said, it goes back to what I told you. Like, if you did something to me and I tell you, Eric, I can't believe you did that to me. You suck, blah blah blah. And with this guy, I definitely have to apologize to him too, because it's not like I acted in the most saintly way either. Even though with him, I might have called him dumb too, or said, no, dude, you're being dumb. Maybe I shouldn't have done that, and also have been so upset about it afterwards, because I was like, man, I thought this guy was here, he's a brother, like, yes, another Christian friend, like, we got this, and then it just like, whoa, dude.
I think that happened for a reason. I don't think it was just like coincidental. I think God was just like, David, I want you to learn something from this, and put this in front of you.
Yeah.
Of course, God's not using him as a pawn. He has his own story, but he's also learning from you too. And so I think that's part of it. It's just like, you got front row seats of it, and you would have wanted to, and you wanted to get like told before you saw that. What is it? You wanted to get Don't worry, I'll edit all this out. Actually, I'll leave it in. You wanted to get a warning before this, but that's not how it really works. It's like, all right, you already know the information. Now here's the exam, and that's it. Like, you don't get time to figure it out.
Another thing I wanted to mention was it's a taste of my own medicine the way I was before. So I should have known better than to act the way I did. Also, I was probably really offended because one, I wasn't given the time. I didn't have the time to sit down with him and like explain everything to him.
Well, to be fair, you did. You going back and forth in messages for like countless of days, right?
Right, but remember I work, so I can't, like, I'm at my job and all of a sudden my phone's going off. I'm like, dude, like, I understand you want me to read these things, but I'm at work. Like, I don't have the time. And so that, I felt like he didn't really take me seriously. And because of that, I think I got more offended. It's like, dude, I just don't have the time and you're not taking that into account at all.
I think it's because that's also a part of it, is that it was all through text mostly, if not all. So you can't really tell the sincerity between a text and whatever,
Yeah, so I feel like maybe I took it too personally when I shouldn't have. I think it did get a little personal, the things that he said, but I took it to heart when I shouldn't have. I should have had more compassion and been like, you know what, you were like this too. You should know how to deal with this because this is something you would have done way back when.
Yeah, in my personal experience, I had a very unique one, and I didn't expect this to happen, but I was ready, man. Like, so basically, it's hard to bring it up without it being so obvious to the people that watch it. But I'll bring it into a general aspect. If you are speaking to someone that is or has been a Christian longer than you have, for example, it could be a priest or a pastor. That does not mean that they have higher wisdom than you or higher of anything than you. But obviously respect them and honor them, right? Honor your elders, and that's how it is. But so if they tell you something, genuinely keep it within your heart, But if you hear something sound different, or let's say, for example, your pastor's preaching something on the altar, and then in front of everybody, and you hear something that just doesn't quite make sense, and it doesn't, like, not just that it doesn't make sense, but it contradicts the whole thing. So don't even get up and be like, you phony, you liar. Instead, even if it insults you, instead just stay quiet after the service. Don't even bring it up when they're at home, because really think about it, they just got on top of the altar in front of everybody, and then they just got out. Like, give them time to breathe, right? So as soon as they go home, that's the best moment where you can be like, hey, let me reach out and let me talk about a certain topic, right? And that's the big part of it, is that when I did for a certain specific thing, I got backlash in a very holy way, in an unlike Christian-like. And you know this story, so, but you know it more in detail because I can't really go into it, but that's basically it. It's just like, it's like, okay, I see this and I'm aware of what's happening, so you know what, I'm just gonna say something different, and I'm gonna kind of like correctly address certain things and not offend them, and it would be consistent. It would be so often. And there's a moment where the pastor would be like, well, you know what you need to work on, blah 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 blah, and gives me a whole list, right? And right there, man, it's always gonna be like, screw you, dude, right? But now I'm like, no, I have to be graceful, and regardless of what rank you think you have, that does not make any sense. Like, you can't step over someone, like,
right.
So when I heard this, I said, my response was, I'll pray about it, just make sure you pray about it for yourself too. That way that it both worked for both ways, And it's an intimate conversation with a higher being at the same time. So the next time we see each other, we should already have all our ducks on the road,
Yeah.
And it's stuff like that. It's like, but that doesn't make me, by the way, that doesn't make me better than pastor or whatever or other preachers. And trust me, this was just an off thing, but it's in that vein, and it ties back into what what I mentioned earlier, is that the next following couple Sundays, I went and I was hearing that if you see a brother or a sister struggling, that means that they're being attacked. And it's ironic because it's coming from the same person, right? But it's just like, that's it, And I have to be graceful. I have to forgive. I can't be like, man, I am officially church hurt, I'm never coming back. That's not, like, you have to be like, well, they're just being attacked. They're just as me. They're just like the same person. It's not like they're, a different version of Jesus. Like, they're just people just trying to convey the message. And I do that too. So I'm opening it up. If you hear something on my videos that I don't sound like I'm saying something correctly, address it in the comment section. And I'll definitely, like how you said, iron sharpens iron. But yeah, so remember that the place of authority is God's only, and no one else's. And so if God says that you're doing something wrong, boy, you got to change that. But ultimately, in the Bible, it says that men will be judged harder than women. And so we must lead correctly. And we must not just like learn a little bit of the gospel and be like, all right, that's enough. I got it.
But what you said does remind me a little bit about my pastor, because sometimes he'll say something and I don't really hide my face when he's preaching. Sometimes he'll say something like,
dude, I got goods.
I'm like, what? But the thing is that's like kind of hard and I have to think about is, he's up there in front of everybody. Sometimes he's gonna mess up, and it's like, okay, well, you know what? Let's be graceful. Let's extend some grace to our pastor who's preaching, who is concerned, or what does the Bible say? Something over our souls. Like he is in charge of our souls, right? So if something happens to us because he failed to do or go through his role as pastor, then it's also going to land on him. So that's what I think. Like, okay, he's obviously said some things where it's like a big theological where I'm like, okay, dude, I think you're obviously wrong, but you've been a Christian way longer than I have, so I'm going to say that what you said there is wrong, but you know what, it's not the end of the world. So let's just move on from that. I'm going to keep listening to what you're saying, obviously, because you know more than I do, even though I think you're wrong in that portion. But that's what I think about, like, okay, we got to show him some grace, because when he's up there, he can lose his train of thought, he can get nervous or something, and he messes up. And I think my pastor has said that before. He's like, sometimes I'm up there and I know I mess up and I'm sorry. Or I don't remember what he said exactly about being up there and messing up. Like, I hope you don't think I'm dumb because I messed up. Like, but sometimes he says things like, oh, let's go to this book, this chapter, this verse, and then he's somewhere else. And we're like, dude, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But it's understandable, because you're up there, you're nervous, you have a message that you want to focus on, but there's maybe things going on elsewhere that are distracting you, something going on at the church. So I try to be as graceful or as compassionate with the pastor, or as understanding with the pastor as I possibly can, because I also know, like, it's not an easy job. Yeah. So that's what I think about, at least in my place, because he said things that in a sermon that have personally offended me. Right. That I'm like, dude, that's offensive. He was talking about a certain theological thing, and he said the name, and I turned around and I'm like, oh, that's me. Like, I believe that. And then he's like, yeah, people who believe that, what did he say? They're wrong, or some preacher was preaching this, and it was a good sermon, but the roots are rotten because of this. And I was like, dude, I don't think you know what you're talking about. And personally, I do really think he's wrong. He could be wrong on that topic, though, but that doesn't mean he's wrong in everything else, Yeah. And I was probably wrong to be personally offended in that, because in my experience, I did the legwork. I studied, I looked into it. I wasn't like, yes, let's do this. Like, this is awesome. I was like, oh my goodness, this is true. I have no choice but to believe it. Right. And to say something like the roots are rotten, or he said something in specific. The delivery was a bit wrong. Yeah, that was harsh. That I was like, so you're just saying that, like, I basically just, that I didn't study, that I didn't care about about this enough to actually look into it, and I just like whimsically said, oh, I believe this. Like, no, like I really tried, I really looked into it, and I came to this conclusion. But just because he's wrong in that aspect doesn't mean that everything else that he says is wrong. So I have to be like, okay, well, you know what, I think he's wrong there. I'm not going to take his words to heart, and I'm going to try and learn from everything else that he's trying to teach. Yeah, and it's written in the Bible. In certain situations where they are actually wrong, but they're being completely hypocrites, you can say, remove the plank in your eye before you remove the speck in mine, you know? And it's true. It's just like there's certain scenarios where you just gotta, like, it sucks, especially because they're in a as a pastor and a preacher, it's kind of like their pride will come back in and be like, well, do you even know who you're talking to? Or, by the way, this is my church. It's so easy for them to do that, but they are being attacked, and it's just like, you gotta show. You can't be shy when you sharpen the iron, because if you do it wrong, you don't do it at all, it's more harm for the next person that doesn't have the wisdom, that's not ready for it, But I don't think people are always being attacked. Sometimes it's just pride, Sometimes it's like, I don't have my own, like, well, I still don't think so, right? I have my own personal demon that's trying to attack me all the time. Sometimes it's just like, you know what, I'm being prideful because I think I'm better than that, and that's not the case. Yeah. Sometimes it is something that's like, dude, aren't you better than that? And it does get into your head. Because it's the same thing. Yeah, but I don't think it always is, something else, or a demon saying, David, you're better than that. Sometimes it really is just me saying, oh, well, I did this and I already did that, so you think you are to tell me? And it's like, no, okay, like, chill out, David. Like, you're not that important. Relax. Yeah, I get you. Well, I'm not the way I was before. I am still human, so that human weakness is
Yeah,
still
you're
there.
you're prone to it.
Yeah.
It's gonna always be there, or it's always gonna be cycling to something different. And just as God's everywhere, the devil and demons aren't. They can't
That's
be.
true.
They can't be in one location, so they're always shuffling. And so it's written in the Bible that the devil is like a lion, roaming lion, waiting for someone to devour.
Yeah, that's true.
But highlight the word like, because the real lion is God. He's the King of Kings and King of the universe. And so there's a separation between that. There is no contradictory, or there's no opposite. There's no yin yang on this. It's God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit. That's it. There's no anything else. But just a fun fact, if there was something under that, it would be us, because we are his children and we are part of the royal family. We are kings and queens, or princesses and princes, right?
Princesses.
I can't
Princesses?
really. Yeah, no, it messes you up. Don't worry about it. But anyway, that's the point. And with God's, what's it called? The words you speak on reading like the word, it's not that it gives you power, but it's power from him that goes through you. And so there is a chance where you can live your whole life without God and without reading the word or anything, but you would be powerless overwhelmingly. You will feel really exhausted so many times because you don't have that higher being. It's in the Bible where it says, I know I'm going to fight a war, but go with me, Father. And I can't just leave you here. I can't just go by myself. Like, I know I will not survive. You have to come with me, because the truth is, and this was back in the old school, but the truth is God is with you continuously. And like I mentioned in the past, where you don't have to be in a certain location. Back then, if you were, I don't believe in luck, by the way. I think just saying that something is lucky is like dishonoring God, because it's God's ultimate plan, But so what's it called? You have to be born into Moses' lineage so you can enter the room, if you were allowed by God. You can enter the room of the tabernacle or the Ark of the Covenant, or even touch it. So if you're a guard just waiting outside and you hear something fall, you can't run in there, because if you ran in there without permission, you would die immediately. And so that's how it was, right? So the crazy thing is, when Jesus died for the cross, and then right after that, right? Let's say, David, you die and you go to heaven. If you see Moses, you're gonna want to walk up to him and be like, "Hey, Moses, how did it feel when you saw the oceans like wall? That's crazy." And you walk by them, and then Moses will be like, "Well, hold on. How did it feel to have the Holy Spirit in your heart?" Because that's way different. Because he had to go into a room to finally feel that. He didn't walk out into that room, or walk out of that room and walk up on top of the mountain and feel it, unless it was the mountain that God met him, right? But it's just like that. It's just like God is with you, so you don't have to go to a certain location. So you can ask for forgiveness. You can get redeemed anywhere in the location. And I think for me, it was in my bedroom where I really felt like that's the turning point in my whole life. Of course, it's hard to sum it up into one moment, but I feel like that was like the year 2023 where it hit me the most, when I was in my room and I was like, that's it. I'm tired of it. Here's everything. And the part of that is, you can't just do that and then the next day be like, why is everything messing up? Why everything that I built is now just crumbling down? It's like God's saying, well, now that you've given me everything, let me make the foundation me, which is a rock. But everything you were building up, that was all you, and you did this in 18 years straight, just building this character of who I am, or who I believe that I could be. And God's like, no, I'm gonna make something different, and I'm gonna build it off of me, and it's gonna be 10 times faster. And it's only been 3 years, and my life feels so amazing, dude. And I can't do this, what I have now, on my own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Was it over there in Baylor?
Yeah.
In your dorm?
During the freeze?
Yeah.
What year was that?
Winter storm till, I don't know, dude.
I remember it was a few days after Valentine's Day where I was converted, but it took a long time. I think I talked about this in the first episode.
Yeah.
It took a long time for me to be converted. I thought my whole life, I'm a Christian, but I actually didn't care about anything.
Yeah.
It was my own imagination. I made things up. Like, sure, if I can use the Bible for my agenda, then of course I'm going to use it. And I'm very grateful to God that He's kept me from so many things that I could have done that are obviously sins and bigger sins. Like, I definitely have sins that I'm struggling with. My whole life I thought, no, I'm a Christian, dude. Like, I'm definitely a Christian. Like, if you asked me, I would say I'm a Christian. Did I know anything about the Bible? Not really. The things that I knew were because I could use that to fit my agenda, to fit whatever I wanted to say.
That's a hard thing, but yeah.
Yeah. So during quarantine, I think I talked about this in the first episode, but during quarantine, my mom was like, "Hey, you've taken class about the Bible technically. Why don't you show your little siblings?" And I was terrible at it, honestly.
Yeah.
I was pretty mean about it. Like, "Oh, why don't you understand this?" But honestly, I didn't know what I was saying either. And reading the Bible and then watching videos about it, and then, oh my goodness, is this really true? Like, I was reading through the Gospels and I was like, oh my goodness, what, like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like, this is me, and I would cry about it. I'd be like, God, forgive me, and it was like that for weeks, for maybe 2 to 3 months. I don't remember exactly. Maybe like 2 months, where I was like, oh my goodness, I'm reading this. Is this true? And I really do think that God left me alone. He made people. He made people I want to say abandon me.
Isolated.
Yeah, I was isolated. He isolated me because I was pretty much alone for the first semester, and I remember when I got there to Waco, I didn't have a dorm yet. So I was living in a hotel room by myself, and I was reading the Bible, and I was like, oh my goodness, what's going on? And then one day, after a series of things happened, it was definitely after Valentine's Day, I remember that, I woke up and I just felt like and I remember I got up and I went to work, and the snow was melting. And it just felt completely different. Everything felt completely different.
Yeah, your whole life just changed.
Yeah, and then after that, there are like periods in my life. Now I do feel like things have changed for me. With some sins that I was struggling with, which aren't much of a struggle anymore. There's not like a particular day. It's just that now I feel like, man, like, because I pray to God and I ask Him, like, God, I can't do this without you. I need your help.
Yeah.
I feel like, oh my goodness, like, this is so easy. Like, this is why did I struggle with this so much in the past? You know.
That's a really good one, because it's I remember mine like on top of my head like that too, because it's a meaningful moment. It's where you really finally get to stand in front of God and just confess, you know. And the crazy thing is that it's immediate gratitude, because it's like God doesn't look at you and go, okay, well, now that you finally came to me, I need you to do this. No, He's like, perfect, I got it. From now on, you know, you don't gotta worry about anything.
How do we get here from forgiveness? I guess it fits.
I mean,
right?
yeah,
it fits.
Yeah,
but yeah, there's been times where I feel particularly offended about stuff, and it's just, you have to let it go. And even when I talk about it, it's still like, I wish that didn't happen, but it did. So just forgive that person, you know. Not necessarily get over it, but you know, it did happen. They did sin against me.
Yeah.
But I've sinned against them too. You know, I've sinned against God, and God has forgiven me, so I have to forgive them as well. Yeah. And it's not like, oh my goodness, I have to forgive them as well. It's like, no, God has forgiven you for what you've done.
Yeah.
He's shown mercy to you, and you feel so grateful for that. Don't you want other people to feel grateful too? To say, you know what? And they might not be like you said earlier. They might say, oh, I don't care. Like, so what if you forgive me? I don't think I did anything wrong to you.
Yeah.
But still, it's a weight off your own shoulders. It's not something that you keep inside. I know my mom says this a lot to my sisters. They get upset, and my mom's like, this is why you're sick.
It's about the mom, your mom.
Yes, my mom tells my sisters, because my sisters have terrible
immune systems.
Not immune systems. Like, it's like, I don't know, whatever's going on in their stomach, in their abdomen.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Yeah. So I think my 2 sisters, the 2 older ones, my older sister and my younger sister. I have 4 siblings. I have an older sister, 2 younger sisters, and then a younger brother. The 2 older sisters have both had their appendix removed or something. Yeah, and my mom really does think that part of it is like, dude, you're poisoning yourself because you haven't let these things go. You know, like, you need to forgive whatever, if anyone did this to you, like, forgive them, because look, you're the one falling apart. Like, this is doing you harm.
Yeah.
And I do think in part, for one of them, it is like, dude, like, you need to let this go. It needs to stop, because look, you're sick because of it. I think that it does definitely play a part, because it's sin, you know?
Yeah.
Being angry at someone and hating them and not being able to forgive is sin.
And it also attracts more to that.
Yeah, and it attracts more, and there's physical consequences to sin, you know?
Yeah.
If you're extremely mad about something, well, I don't know what my example was going to be, but there's physical consequences to sin, which I think in part could show up in your health.
And to add on to that, because it's like, just to get the right perspective on Christianity or having a relationship with Jesus, just because right now, let's say, for example, you're not a religious person, or you don't even have a relationship, you know of Him, but you don't know Him, and you're not having a hard time, that doesn't mean you're set, you're well off, you're good. No, that means that you're in the cage. And one day, when God says, all right, pack it up, those cages will close. And if you're in the cage, you ain't going to freaking, you ain't going, bro. You're staying back. Okay? Yeah. Or also, if you're in between the cage and you're kind of like, well, I don't know what to do with my life, I don't know where to go, you are considered still in the cage. Even if you're all the way out and you have just a toe in, you're still in the cage. You know, God says, I want you to be 100%. He says, cling on to me. He says, I want you to be 100% to me. And he says, I'm a jealous God, meaning that he says, I want you to worship your Lord, your God, high letter key. And that's part of it. And so it's just like, if you're not having a hard time right now, even if you are a Christian and you're not having a hard time, take another second just to realize, oh, maybe I am being attacked. Because in the Bible it is written that the thieves do not rob empty houses or empty homes. You have to have God in your heart, and that's when the devil starts attacking, like truly attacking. If you don't have God in your heart and you don't have, the word in your heart, or anything like that, then you're already in the cage. You're already set. He doesn't have to worry about you.
You're a son of wrath. You're a son of the devil. So why is the devil going to go and attack you? He already owns you.
Yeah. And just to put it in perspective, I'm going to make a whole video about this, but I want to say it now. I keep mentioning the cage. What I'm trying to refer to is, let's say that there's just like this 1x1 cage, right? And you're in it, and the devil's in there or around it, and he's just rattling things that you like. You like pride, you like money, you like this, boom, boom. He's not gonna ever go, he doesn't care about your feelings right now. He cares about it when you die. So right now, his main goal is to distract you and separate you away from God. That's his whole agenda, that's his whole goal. And so when you're in there and you say, oh, I like stomping on children, the devil's not gonna be like, ew, David. No, he's gonna be like, I don't care, that's one more thing I could rattle on, so I could keep you in this cage. And the second when you finally go, wait, this cage is open, let me walk out of it, and as soon as you walk out, he's gonna freak out. That's when he's gonna be like, wait a second, you know, because he wants you to be in there. So when the time comes, because the devil doesn't know, not even the angels in heaven know when the world's gonna end. So when the cage is closed, he's gonna be like, finally, now I do care, and I'm not gonna give you pride, I'm not gonna give you all this, I'm gonna give you pain, and he's gonna suffer, you're gonna suffer, and all this stuff, right? But ultimately, it's truly God punishing those who don't do good, you know. The devil will receive his punishment, and the demons, and that's the whole agenda. But you got to know that. I'm gonna make a whole video and go in depth about that. But
yeah, there was something you said. Oh yes, you're talking about even if you're not struggling now. I do think about that. You know, some people, and sometimes I've seen like, man, this guy, he's a horrible guy. He's doing so well. Why am I struggling? It's like, wait, hold on. You know, first of all, God works all things for the good of those who love Him. So if you love God, you're gonna be doing just fine.
You don't love Him, David?
You know, so it's like, okay, David. First of all, you need to calm down because you know that. Secondly, they might be doing well now, but in the future they might not. You know, it doesn't matter if it's here on earth where they lose everything and they have to suffer for it, or when they die and they go to hell and they have to suffer for everything. So maybe they're getting all their earthly pleasures now, but then
it's just distraction.
It is just, you know, it's folly. I think Ecclesiastes says, right? It's folly. Like, sure, you're enjoying it. Go ahead and enjoy it now. Let's drink tonight and be merry, because there's nothing else. There's nothing else for you. Yeah. So have your fun now, because at some point. Yeah, because whether you're living and you lose it, or you die and you go to hell and it didn't make any difference, you know, that's another thing that I think about. I don't remember why I brought that up.
Because of what I said about the thing. But yeah, I get you. Yeah.
Yeah, that
I forgot it. So, you know, maybe notes are really good.
Yeah, maybe we should read notes now.
I like the freeness though, because it's more honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was gonna mention what you mentioned earlier on. Kind of reminded me. Don't forget that it is written in the Bible: if you are first, you are last. If you are last, you are first. That's how it is. So if you feel like, man, you're in the real, if you feel like Job, read Job and realize, oh, you know, like, oh, this is happening to me. Like everything, sickness and health and all this other stuff is like, everything's deteriorating. But if you notice, Job doesn't ever say, man, I hate you, to God. He doesn't say that. Instead, he says, God, free me, countless of times. And he's like truly asking for his help. And even, I think it says in God really appreciates Job. You know, and he was like, how if he was complaining the whole time? And he was saying, like, man, God, why would you do this to me? You know, but that doesn't mean that he hates him. You know, that's a really good point to bring up, because I caught it up when you were talking.
But Job, yeah, I was thinking about Job too, especially because everyone's like, just curse God and die, dude.
Yeah.
Like obviously God's not with you, just curse him so that we can die and you stop suffering. And then what was his reward? I think he had more kids and he was gifted even more. God gave him more for suffering that. But that suffering came because God said, look, have you considered my servant Job? Like, look at him. Like this is my guy Job. And the devil said, oh, of course he's your guy. You've got him hedged in. There's nothing's happening to him.
He was like, all right, then try it.
Yeah, try it. You just can't kill him.
And if you have your foundation made with God, and in Deuteronomy it is written that the Lord is your rock. When weather comes in, when storms comes in, your house will not fall. Like, it's not gonna, not even tumble. You won't even know that it's raining outside. And it's funny enough, this actually happened. So you know the giant storm that was about to hit us, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So everyone was going crazy about it on my family group chat, right? And it was hard to kind of say this because it sounds very prideful, but I said, I'm not worried about it because my God shushed storms away. And like how God was in the boat and he says shush to the weather, and the weather just calmed down. And I was like, I started watching videos and I was like, wait a second, I need to follow up with a prayer, you know? So I prayed and I was like, please. And I literally said, please let it curve, let it turn. And the craziest thing, I saw that graphic, I don't know if you saw it, but where the thing just literally went the other way.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, that's awesome. But of course, it was still adjacent to us. We still got some weather on it. But when I was in my house, living my whole life, whatever, because I didn't have to go outside that day, I didn't even know it was raining. The only time I found out it was raining was when I walked against my main door. By the way, I just blinded myself. I walked against my main door that takes me outside, and I just heard the water drip, and I was just like, it's been raining? Like, I didn't even know. And apparently, since I woke up and kind of like the whole afternoon, it stopped. Like, the whole time it was going.
But I remember because you kept messaging me like, when are we going to record this week? I'm like, dude, it's raining.
Dude,
what are you talking about? It's raining outside. You're like, no, it's not. And I'm like, dude, just step outside. And you're like, oh, I didn't even realize it was raining. But I remember that because I was like, man, Erick wants to go out record in the rain? Like, what's going on? It wasn't even record. We're just doing some shoots. But
yeah,
I remember that.
That's so funny. I had forgotten about that. That's true. I was so like convinced. I was like, "Let's do it, dude. It's a good day."
What are you talking about? Like, you don't hear the rain?
I was like, man, it's sunny out there.
I think I was at work and I could hear it hitting the roof, and you were messaging me. So are we gonna do this? I'm like,
dude, but we had back to back. Like, I went outside because I have plants. I went outside and I couldn't see the sky. It was all cloud. Like, remember, it was back to back like 3 days, maybe 4 days straight, just complete gray. Yeah. And I was just like, man, that's crazy. But it is unfortunate though. That doesn't mean that I prayed for other people to get damaged or hurt. Truly, like, it's unfortunate that they got out. What's it called? Their houses flipped and all that stuff. I don't know if you saw any photos of that, but
I don't recall.
All right, that's all for today. Thank you guys for watching. I do appreciate you all. We're gonna actually do 2 episodes today. So next episode, we're not gonna shower and we're gonna wear the same clothes. Anyway, appreciate you all. Thank you guys, and shout out to David. We're gonna do episode 3 tomorrow, and episode 4 tomorrow, and it will come out whenever it does. Appreciate you all, and thanks for watching. And David,
that's it. Thank you.
All right.